Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. We love to take these deep dives together, and today we're going to be exploring excerpts from a book chapter. And the title of this chapter is just incredible. It's called These Legs Were Made for Walking.
Wow, that's
I
powerful.
know, right? And these excerpts are all about someone who lost functionality in their legs and their journey to walk again.
I can't wait to hear this.
Hmm.
It's one thing to sort of intellectually know that such a recovery is possible,
Yeah.
but to actually dive into the specifics of how it happens, how someone faces that challenge and overcomes it, it's just truly inspiring.
It really is. And the chapter starts with the narrator being transferred to the medium care unit.
Yeah.
A step toward recovery. But it's also a reminder of the long road ahead. They were in this unit for almost 3 months,
Wow.
and through it all, their primary focus was walking again.
It's that kind of laser focus that really sets the stage for these kinds of stories, doesn't it? It's that refusal to accept defeat.
Oh, absolutely. And they had a dedicated physical therapist who really understood not just the physical, but also the emotional weight of what the narrator was going through.
Yeah, I think that's so crucial, that connection between the therapist and the patient. It's not just about the exercises, it's about the shared understanding of the journey ahead.
I think you're absolutely right. It's about that human connection. And the way the narrator describes working with what remained of their lower legs,
Hmm.
it really makes you wonder how they even began to approach this challenge.
Yeah, that phrase really gets you thinking what remained. I
Hmm.
mean, it suggests such a significant loss. It makes the prospect of walking seem almost unimaginable.
And early on, there's this really interesting anecdote that the narrator talks about racing their sister in wheelchairs
Oh, wow.
on a closed floor of the hospital.
Hmm.
And it's this odd mix of, them facing their new reality, but at the same time finding some sense of normalcy and even joy in it.
You know what's so fascinating to me about that is the psychological complexity of it all. On the one hand, you have this person confronting the very real possibility that their life has changed permanently. And yet there's this spark of defiance, this refusal to be defined by the wheelchair.
Yeah, and the narrator actually says it was not going to be that way. There were too many things I wanted to do in life, and a wheelchair would only get in the way.
It's like they're drawing a line in the sand right there.
Yeah,
It's a declaration that they're not going to let this injury dictate their future.
right. And there's this detail that at first seems totally unrelated. The narrator had always been fascinated by human anatomy,
Really?
even owning anatomy coloring books,
Huh.
which seems like just a random fact.
Yeah.
But it turns out to be incredibly significant.
I could see that, actually. When you think about it, having that deep understanding of how muscles work before embarking on a journey like this, it's an incredible advantage. It's like they were inadvertently preparing for this challenge.
Right. And then we get into the meticulous process of, identifying and working with the remaining muscle fragments in their legs.
And that's where that knowledge of anatomy becomes so critical, right?
Yeah.
They're working with their therapist to pinpoint even the smallest bits of muscle and then trying to stimulate them to activate through these incredibly focused exercises.
It's amazing to me the patience that must have required, trying to reactivate muscles that had been dormant for months.
It's a testament to the incredible power of the mind-body connection, isn't it?
Hmm.
I mean, the human body can achieve incredible things when the mind is fully engaged in the process.
Absolutely. And eventually they reach a point where standing upright becomes a possibility.
Mm.
But even that simple act of standing after being bedridden for so long presented a whole new set of hurdles.
Yeah, it's easy to forget how much our bodies adapt to prolonged periods of inactivity. Their body had to essentially relearn how to be vertical, how to allow blood to flow through their legs in this new way.
Yeah, and the narrator describes this period as a real roller coaster. They talk about days filled with lightheadedness and nausea, but also those incredible moments where they could feel the blood coursing through new paths in their legs.
I love that phrase, new paths in their new legs.
Yeah.
It speaks to this incredible sense of transformation and rediscovery.
And just when it seemed like walking was within reach, they hit a major setback. They discovered that they had foot drop.
Uh-oh.
So every time they lifted their leg to take a step, their foot would just drop down, making normal walking impossible.
Foot drop is a common complication after nerve damage, but I can only imagine how demoralizing it must have been for someone so determined to walk again.
And yet they found a workaround. They developed this marching walk where they had to lift their knees really high with each step to clear their foot.
So they were essentially retraining their body to move in a completely different way. It's incredible the adaptability of the human spirit.
It really is. It would have been so easy to just give up at that point, but they found a way to keep moving forward.
That's what's so inspiring about this story.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even when faced with setbacks, we always have a choice. We can either let those challenges defeat us, or we can find a way to adapt and overcome them.
And this is just the beginning of their journey.
I can't wait to hear what happens next.
Me too. We'll be right back after a short break with more from These Legs Were Made for Walking.
It's a testament to human ingenuity and the power of collaboration. The narrator worked with their medical team to develop these custom braces called ETELs.
He tells.
Yeah, and these braces were designed to keep their feet at a 90-degree angle.
Yeah.
So basically addressing that foot drop issue.
So they could take a normal step.
Right, exactly.
It's amazing how they were able to come up with these solutions. It wasn't just about individual grit. It was about this whole support system working together to find a way forward.
Absolutely. And then comes this pivotal moment. After months of preparation and setbacks, the physical therapist and the unit chief, they asked the narrator, "Do you want to try and walk?"
I bet that was an incredible moment, filled with so many emotions.
Oh, absolutely. It's the culmination of everything they've been working towards. All the pain, the doubt, the hope, the determination. It all comes down to this moment.
The narrator describes feeling this overwhelming mix of excitement, fear, apprehension. They were ready, but also terrified of failing.
And that's the thing about vulnerability, right? It often goes hand in hand with courage.
Yeah.
Even with all the preparation and determination, there's still this element of the unknown, this leap of faith required to take those first steps.
And then they do it. They take 5 uncoordinated, unsteady steps towards the door with a walker. 4 staff members supporting them, their exposed shin bones visible beneath the bandages. It wasn't graceful, but it was monumental.
5 steps. 5 steps that represent a victory over so much more than just physical limitations. It's a triumph over fear, over doubt, over the perceived limitations that others might have placed on them.
A few days later, they achieved an even bigger milestone. They walked down the hallway, still slow, still arduous, but this time the entire unit staff lined the hallway, cheering them on.
That image just gives me chills. The collective joy, the support radiating from the staff, it speaks to the impact this journey had on everyone who witnessed it. It became a shared victory, a testament to the power of community and encouragement.
And then there's this incredibly moving scene where the narrator looks up and sees their surgeon, the one who fought so hard to save their legs, standing there watching them walk, tears streaming down his face.
Oh, wow. It's a moment that transcends the medical aspect of recovery and speaks to the very core of what it means to be human. That capacity for compassion, for resilience, for the profound impact we can have on one another.
But this experience also kind of sheds light on the importance of perspective. The staff, while incredibly supportive, they'd seen the worst-case scenarios.
Right.
And their initial doubts weren't meant to be cruel, but rather a reflection of their experience.
Absolutely. They were operating within the framework of what they knew. And the narrator's case challenged those assumptions. It pushed them to reconsider the possibilities and ultimately expanded their understanding of human potential.
It's like sometimes our limitations are self-imposed.
Mhm.
We might believe something is impossible based on past experiences or what we've been told, but the narrator's story encourages us to question those limitations and explore what might lie beyond them.
It's about believing in something bigger than ourselves, bigger than what we think we know. It's about trusting that inner voice that says, "I can do this," even when the external world seems to be saying otherwise.
Now, shifting gears a bit, I want to touch on the narrator's experience with faith and how it intertwined with their recovery. They mentioned feeling conflicted about attending chapel services,
Mm.
wanting to go because it was important to their parents, but also wrestling with the why behind their illness.
Yeah, that's a conflict a lot of people can relate to, I think, especially when facing life-altering events. It's natural to question one's beliefs, to grapple with existential questions during times of hardship.
It's like they were navigating 2 journeys simultaneously, the physical recovery and this spiritual search for meaning.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And it's interesting how they acknowledged that they weren't ready to fully delve into those spiritual questions right away. It emphasizes that healing is a multifaceted process, and there's no right or wrong way to approach it.
It's about respecting the individual's journey and recognizing that sometimes time and space are necessary for processing and making sense of what has happened. And this brings us to a quote from the narrator that I found particularly powerful. They say, "They finally were able to integrate the truth that I held and that my legs were made for walking."
Mm, that's a beautiful line.
Huh.
It speaks to the narrator's unwavering conviction, this inner knowing that they would walk again. And it also highlights the importance of trusting our own intuition even when others might doubt us.
It's a reminder that sometimes we know ourselves better than anyone else. We have this inner strength and resilience that can guide us even when the external world might seem bleak. It's about tapping into that inner knowing and having the courage to act on it, even when faced with uncertainty.
It makes you wonder what's truly possible when we embrace that kind of self-belief, when we refuse to let fear or doubt dictate our actions.
It does, and I think the narrator's story is a testament to the power of hope and determination. Even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, the human spirit can find a way to persevere and overcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder that we're not meant to go through these challenges alone. The narrator had a dedicated medical team, a supportive family, and even the encouragement of the entire hospital unit. And that kind of collective support can make all the difference.
It's like that African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. The narrator's journey wasn't just a solo effort. It was a testament to the power of community and collective support.
Think about that moment in the hallway when staff is cheering them on. It's a beautiful illustration of how shared joy and encouragement can amplify individual achievements. It becomes a celebration of human resilience, a shared victory for everyone involved.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to ask you what resonated with you most about the narrator's story? What will you take away from this exploration of recovery and determination?
For me, it's a powerful reminder that we all possess this incredible capacity for growth and resilience. It might lie dormant until we're faced with a challenge, but it's always there within us, waiting to be awakened.
I think that's a beautiful takeaway. And maybe, just maybe, this story will inspire you to re-examine those self-imposed limitations we talked about earlier. What seemingly impossible goal are you capable of achieving if you set your mind to it and find the right support?
Sometimes, all it takes is one step, then another and another, to make the impossible possible. Keep moving forward, one step at a time, and you might just surprise yourself with what you can accomplish. And it really makes you think, doesn't it, about how much of what we think is impossible is actually just self-doubt. Maybe our limitations aren't real. They're just these stories we tell ourselves.
I think you're absolutely right. And the narrator's story is this incredible example of what happens when we challenge those stories, when we refuse to accept those limitations.
It's like they said, my legs were made for walking, and they held on to that truth even when it seemed impossible.
It's so powerful. And, it makes me wonder, what other truths are we holding on to? What dreams are we ignoring because we've convinced ourselves that they're not possible?
I mean, think about all the things that have been accomplished throughout history, things that people once thought were impossible. Flying to the moon, curing diseases, breaking down social barriers. These were all dreams once, and they became reality because people dared to believe in them.
And it wasn't just about believing, though, was it? It was also about taking action, about putting in the work, even when it was hard, even when it seemed like there was no end in sight.
You can't just sit back and wish for things to happen. You have to be willing to get up and do the work. And that's where the narrator's story really resonates with me. It's a reminder that even the smallest steps can lead to incredible change.
And that sometimes the most difficult journeys lead to the most rewarding destinations.
Absolutely.
It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day challenges of life and forget about the bigger picture, to forget about what we're truly capable of.
But stories like this, they remind us that we have this incredible potential within us. And that if we're willing to put in the effort, anything is possible.
And that even when we stumble, even when we fall, we can always choose to get back up and keep moving forward.
One step at a time.
One step at a time. So as we come to the end of this deep dive, I want to leave you with this question. What's that one thing you've always wanted to do but have been too afraid to try? What's that dream that you've been putting on hold because you've convinced yourself that it's not possible?
Maybe it's time to dust off that dream and take that first step.
Because you never know. You might just surprise yourself with what you can accomplish.
So go out there and make those legs walk.
And make those legs walk. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into These Legs Were Made for Walking. We'll see you next time.